Welcome back to Cheddar's News Wrap. Cheddar is celebrating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month by having authentic conversations across all of our programming, highlighting the history, culture, and contributions of the community in the U.S. and all around the world. Many businesses use artificial intelligence, or AI, to automate their customer service needs. However, they may struggle to maintain the human element of actually interacting. Our next guest founded a company that creates applications using conversational AI to help organizations streamline communications while making customers feel as if they are talking to a real person. Here to discuss, Seth Miller, founder of Verbal Agency. Great to have you here. Tell us much more here about how Verbal Agency started, how the whole thing actually began, and what inspired you to actually get into the space.
Yeah, so it actually started on a trip to Japan. I went over there to visit some family to celebrate my great-grandfather's life, and I was struck by the culture that people and robots shared. You'd go into a restaurant, place an order with a machine, and then you'd go to the train station, and people would literally run to stand in line and wait on schedule and just cooperate in this really interesting way. So I found that very inspiring. I went to Okinawa and basically booked it to an Air Force base to start scripting a chatbot for NBA star Russell Westbrook, who just made history this week.
That's amazing. How are brands using conversational AI and virtual assistants, and how would you describe conversational AI to an average viewer who may be otherwise somewhat unfamiliar with the concept and have only a loose familiarity with artificial intelligence itself?
So I would start with AI. A lot of people have different definitions for it. My definition is the decision I would make if I had unlimited time and information. Conversational AI basically takes that principle and makes it easier for people to do what they need to do in a given situation. And so for a brand, it might be answering a frequently asked question. It could be retrieving information about my account, maybe making a transaction. Could be any number of things, but basically what I'm doing now and in a way that I can literally talk to it.
So if I had to go about designing something like this, I have absolutely no idea where I would start because I'm like most human beings. Can you give me your sense on what some of the biggest challenges, the barriers to entry and success have been when trying to create something so complex?
And so I think it comes from understanding the problem first. You want to understand what you're trying to solve for, who you are as a brand, as an entity, and who you're trying to talk to. If you skip out on any of those pieces, then it becomes unnecessarily challenging. But if you have a clear vision of what you're trying to do, who you are and who you're speaking with, it's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, it begins with research, a lot of research. You want to vet it against a number of different audiences so that you're not missing any blind spots. And then you want to test it out. I think too, you want to start small, so solve one or two problems and then build on that.
What are digital humans? Because that's a phrase we got there on the lower of the screen, and I mean, may sound like something out of a movie to some of our viewers who aren't quite familiar. But what does that phrase actually refer to, and what does it mean in terms of the progress of the conversation? Where are we heading?
So digital humans are a really nice interface for these conversational systems. And so they will be 3D avatars that can understand what you say, can read your sentiment, gauge whether or not you're happy, sad, smiling, upset, etc., and use that to inform the conversation that you have with them to, again, answer any questions you might have or perform different functions.
Wow. Any sort of concern here that, so we see Mr. Einstein here on screen, any concern here that digital humans could take away jobs from real humans? I mean, Seth, you know that question is going to be asked by many people.
That's absolutely it. I see them more as partners to humans that take away some of the tasks that people don't like to do. So they're really good at handling routine functions, more managing an overflow of work than doing the creative process. And I see humans as basically the managers of these systems.
How would you describe the moment that you think you are in right now in terms of the current state of this industry, and how rapidly is it going to continue to evolve even in just the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think that we're at the very beginning of something interesting. Right now, we're still talking to these interfaces, and that's a good starting point. But I think that more and more it's going to resemble telepathy of these systems picking up information ambiently and then using that to help us make better decisions before we even know we have to make them.
Wow. That's amazing. Finally, allow me to conclude with this one. In the corporate world, of course, Asian Americans only hold 3.7% of board seats in the Fortune 1000, despite being 12% of the total workforce, according to a KPMG report. What are some actionable steps you think employers can better take to address the Asian and Pacific Islander gap within their organization, especially at the executive level, Seth?
I think organizations need to question themselves a little bit more. They have to ask themselves, are they elevating certain people because they resemble themselves, or might they find equally or just equally talented people who maybe deserve an extra a bump?
Very well said. Appreciate your time. Thanks a lot for being here. They're live from California. Seth Miller, founder of Verbal Agency. Best of luck. Really fascinating stuff. Thank you, Seth.